I should have noticed the tension the moment I walked into my parents' house that Sunday night. The whole place smelled like rosemary chicken and polished wood, warm, familiar smells. But underneath it was something colder, metallic, like a storm waiting to break. I sat at the long oak dining table across from my mother, Miranda Hayes, the queen of Linden and Bloom events, a woman who could smile through any crisis as long as clients were watching. My father, Thomas, a senior CPA, carved the roast with the same precision he used for tax returns. And Graham, my 34-year-old brother, scrolled through his phone like he was above the very meal we were sharing. I was the outsider, the disappointment, the struggling screenwriter who didn't fit into the Hayes family blueprint. "So," Mom finally said, setting down her glass with that quiet, decisive click I'd learned to fear since childhood. "How's the writing?" She stretched the word like taffy about to snap. "It's going well," I said. "I turned in a new script last week. My producer thinks—" "A producer!" Graham cut in with a smirk. "Aurora, sweetie, anyone can upload a script to a website and call that a producer." I swallowed. "It's an actual contract, Graham." Dad didn't even look up. "Screenwriting isn't a career unless you're 1 in a million. You're 29. It's time to grow up." Here it was, the familiar ambush disguised as dinner. "I am grown up," I said, keeping my voice level. "And this is the career I chose." Mom leaned forward, eyes sharp as cut glass. "You chose failure. You chose fantasy. And frankly, we're done watching you waste your life in that little shack behind Grandma Eleanor's house." "That's not a shack," I said, heat climbing my neck. "She renovated that loft for me. She wanted me to have a space to create—" "A space that now needs to support the family business," Mom interrupted. "Which brings us to why we called this dinner." My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" Dad wiped his hands calmly, as if he were announcing the weather. "You're no longer part of the Hayes household. We've decided not to support your—" He waved vaguely toward me. "Lifestyle choices." My fork froze halfway to my mouth. "Support? I've paid my own bills for years." "Not anymore," Mom said flatly. "You're not family, and the locks on Linden Loft will be changed tonight." The dining room fell silent. Even the grandfather clock in the hall seemed to hold its breath. "You're kicking me out?" My voice barely made it out of my throat. "For chasing a dream Grandma believed in?" "Your grandmother isn't here," Mom snapped, "and we're tired of cleaning up after your bad decisions." Dad reached into his shirt pocket and slid his phone toward me. On the screen was my bank app, our joint emergency savings account. Balance. Years. "What did you do?" My voice cracked. "We withdrew it," Dad said. "Family expenses, taxes. The company needed it more than you." "That was my money," I whispered. "Every freelance check I saved." Graham stood, grabbed my arm, and pulled me from my chair. "Come on, Aurora, don't make this dramatic." "This is dramatic." I jerked away, but he tightened his grip. Mom didn't flinch. "Whatever doesn't fit in your car stays. You have until midnight. Graham, show her out." The room spun. The air felt thin, but no one at the table reached for me. No one told him to stop, not even Dad. Graham marched me to the front door like I was a trespasser, not his sister. He shoved me onto the cold porch. "Good luck with your little scripts," he said, and shut the door in my face. I stood there, shaking, as the house I'd grown up in went dark behind me. Hours later, from the cracked window of my 10-year-old Honda, I watched a locksmith van pull up. Under the porch light, my mother stood in her silk pajamas, arms crossed, watching as every lock, house and loft, was replaced, like she was erasing me in real time. By midnight, I realized I had nowhere to go but a roadside motel off Highway 26. The room smelled like bleach and loneliness. I sat on the stiff bed, staring at my empty bank account and the key in my pocket that no longer opened any door. My family had thrown me away, and I had no idea that they had just triggered the one safeguard Grandma Eleanor left behind. The one thing powerful enough to turn their perfect world upside down. But that truth, I wouldn't learn until morning. I barely slept that night. The motel room stank of bleach and old carpet. But it was the silence that kept me awake. The kind of silence that makes you realize everything you thought was solid has turned to sand beneath your feet. At some point after 3 a.m., unable to breathe through the panic anymore, I opened the worn leather notebook I always carried. On the first page was my grandmother's looping handwriting. "Don't let anyone dim your light, sweet girl." My throat tightened. Grandma Eleanor had been the only person who never treated my dreams like a hobby. I ran my thumb over the ink, wishing she were still here, wishing someone, anyone, was on my side. My phone chimed. A new email. Subject line, "Urgent. Eleanor Monroe Creative Trust. Contact required." A trust? My grandmother's name? I read the message 3 times before it made any sense. They needed me at a law office downtown first thing in the morning. For the first time since being thrown out, a spark of something, fear, hope, maybe both, stirred in my chest. By 8 a.m., I was standing in front of a glass high-rise in downtown Portland, my backpack slung over my shoulder like a shield. Inside, a receptionist ushered me to a conference room where a man in a charcoal suit rose to greet me. "Ms. Hayes," he said warmly, "I'm Marvin Cole. Please sit. We have a lot to discuss." He slid a heavy blue file across the table. My name was stamped on it. "This pertains to the trust established by your grandmother 2 years ago." I blinked. "My grandmother never told me about a trust." "That was intentional," Cole said gently. "She wanted to protect you." He opened the file, revealing documents thick with signatures and legal seals. "Mrs. Eleanor Monroe created the Eleanor Monroe Creative Trust for your exclusive benefit. She transferred full ownership of the Linden Loft and the surrounding quarter-acre lot into it." I stared. "The loft belongs to me?" "To the trust," he corrected, "and you are the sole beneficiary." He tapped another document. "Starting the month after her passing, you were supposed to receive $3,000 per month for 24 months to support your writing career." I laughed, one short, disbelieving breath. "I've never received a cent." "I know," Cole said quietly. Then he turned his laptop toward me. A ledger filled the screen, rows and rows of transfers. My stomach dropped. "What is this?" "The trust's disbursement records," he said. "For the past 2 years, every monthly payment intended for you was redirected to Linden and Bloom events." My mother's company. Under memo lines such as loft maintenance, creative development, community marketing initiatives, my pulse hammered in my ears. "How much?" Cole took a breath like he hated saying it. $182,400. My hands shook so hard I had to grip the chair. "They stole from me," I whispered. "All this time. That was my money." Cole nodded. "Your father was listed as a financial alternate on the trust, a common but risky arrangement. He used that authority to redirect funds to the family business." I felt sick. I knew they didn't support me, but this is criminal. "There's more," Cole said, folding his hands. "Your grandmother anticipated this." He clicked a folder on his laptop. A video opened, and there she was, Eleanor Monroe, thinner than I remembered, but sharp-eyed, resolute. "If you're watching this, Aurora," she began, "then they've done what I feared most." My breath hitched. "I created this trust to shield you from anyone who would try to crush your creativity, your independence, or your future. If you were ever forcibly removed from your home, from your loft, the trust would automatically trigger a legal response." Cole paused the video. "Last night," he said, "when your parents had you removed and changed the locks, they activated Clause 7B, hostile eviction protection." I stared at him. "What does that mean?" "It means," Cole said, leaning forward, "every transfer they made is now under mandatory investigation. All trust-related funds are frozen. The court will intervene. Your parents have positioned themselves on the wrong end of a legal tripwire your grandmother set herself." My heart pounded as the truth sank in. The moment they threw me out, the moment they changed those locks, the moment my mother watched from the porch like I was already gone, they sealed their own fate. Cole closed the folder. Ms. Hayes, your grandmother protected you better than you ever knew, and now it's time to reclaim what's yours. For the first time since that horrible dinner, I felt steady again. Not because I wasn't afraid, but because Grandma had left me a weapon. A weapon shaped like the truth. 2 days after meeting with Cole, I found myself sitting across from a woman whose presence could have intimidated an entire courtroom. Mara Green, sharp navy suit, sharper eyes, and a voice so steady it could slice through granite. She didn't waste time with small talk. Ms. Hayes, she said, folding her hands on the table, your parents didn't just steal from your trust. They used your loft, a property they do not legally own, as collateral for a bank loan. I felt the air leave my lungs. They used my home to borrow money? Yes. That's bank fraud. Her tone didn't soften. And the moment they evicted you, they triggered your grandmother's protective clause. You now have every legal advantage you could hope for. She tapped the thick binder in front of her. My name was written across the spine in bold black marker. Our plan is simple, Mara said. We file for an emergency court order restoring possession of the loft to you, freezing all trust-related assets, and compelling a full forensic audit of the transfers to Linden and Bloom events. I swallowed hard. How long will this take? Not long, she said. Your grandmother left us dynamite. We just have to light the fuse. That was the moment something inside me shifted. The fear was still there, but it was starting to rearrange itself into resolve. Over the next week, I moved into a small temporary apartment rented by the trust. Bare walls, mismatched furniture, and the hum of traffic outside the window. It wasn't home, but it was safe enough to work. Cole, Mara, and I spent hours around the small kitchen table that served as our war room. Papers spread everywhere. Bank records, emails, voicemails, freeze-frame screenshots of accounting ledgers. One afternoon, Cole arrived with a manila envelope. This came anonymously, he said, dropping it on the table, from a junior accountant at Linden and Bloom. Inside were internal emails between my parents and Graham. I read them with trembling hands. Move the trust funds through loft maintenance again. She'll never understand financial statements anyway. Aurora is too dreamy to question where the money goes. My stomach twisted as if I'd been punched. That's how they talk about me? I whispered. Mara leaned toward me. People who underestimate you are easier to beat. There were spreadsheets, too. Color-coded transactions showing exactly how trust money had been funneled into company expenses. Office remodels, equipment purchases, even airfare for a corporate retreat that was really just a beach vacation for my family. They used my grandmother's legacy like a credit card, I said, voice cracking. And now, Mara replied, they'll answer for it. Later that night, after Cole left, Mara placed a small wooden box on the table. Your grandmother wanted this kept separate. Inside were handwritten pages, Eleanor's personal notes, dated in her careful script. She documented every conversation where my parents pressured her to revise the trust. Every argument, every attempt to manipulate her. Then Mara pulled up an audio file. Static, a rustle. Then Grandma's voice, firm, tired, but unmistakably clear. I will not change the trust again, Miranda. It is for Aurora. You cannot control everything. My mother's voice answered, tight and cold. You're being dramatic, Eleanor. She doesn't know how to use money. We're helping her. You're helping yourselves, Grandma shot back. And I won't let you. Hearing it made my chest constrict. She had fought for me, right up until her last breath. I pressed my palms against my eyes. She knew exactly what they'd do. Yes, Mara said softly. And she designed this trust to protect you from them. For the first time since that terrible dinner, the shame I'd been carrying began to fall away. This wasn't my fault. I hadn't imagined their cruelty. And I wasn't powerless. I straightened in my chair. What's next? Mara's lips curved into a rare smile. Next, she said, we take this to court, and we make sure the truth hits them harder than they ever hit you. And for the first time, I was ready. Walking into the county courthouse felt like stepping into a world I didn't belong to. Cold marble floors, Tall ceilings, rows of wooden benches filled with strangers. My palms were damp, my stomach twisted. I had never stood before a judge in my life, but I wasn't alone. Mara walked beside me like a storm wrapped in a tailored navy suit, and Cole carried our stack of evidence with the calm of someone who knew exactly how this would end. When my case number was called, my knees almost buckled. I took the stand, raised my right hand, swore to tell the truth. And then I relived everything. The dinner table, the insults, the bank account wiped clean, the cold porch. My mom watching the locksmith change the locks to the loft my grandmother built for me. I told the judge everything, my voice shaking, but still my voice. Across the courtroom, my mother dabbed her eyes dramatically, as if she were the victim. Dad stared at the floor. Graham wore that same smug expression I'd seen my entire childhood. When it was their turn, Mom launched into her performance. "We only wanted Aurora to take responsibility for her life," she said in a trembling voice. "She's been sheltered for too long. The loft. Well, we were just trying to maintain it for the family's benefit," Dad added. "The financial transfers were simply reallocations, all within reason. We were helping her." Mara rose so sharply her chair scraped the floor. "Helping?" she repeated with a hint of a laugh. "Let's take a look at what helping looks like." She clicked her remote, and the courtroom screen lit up with rows of financial documents. "This," she said, pacing slowly, "is the trust disbursement ledger. Every dollar that should have gone to Ms. Aurora Hayes went to Linden and Bloom events instead." She pointed to the first line. A $3,000 monthly transfer marked loft maintenance. "And here," Mara continued, "is the receipt for the loft maintenance. A $3,000 payment toward a luxury interior design consultation for your company's new office." Another click, a $1,400 transfer to creative development. "And this?" Mara arched an eyebrow. "A down payment for your son's new car." A murmur rippled across the courtroom. Dad shifted uncomfortably. Graham looked away. Then Mara stopped, remote in hand. "Your Honor, the most critical evidence remains." She played the video. My grandmother appeared on screen, frail but fierce, sitting in her sunlit kitchen. "If Aurora is being forced out of her home," she said clearly, "then something has gone terribly wrong. I'm putting these protections in place because Miranda sees people as assets, not family, and I fear she will try to take what does not belong to her." My mother's face drained of color. Grandma continued, "Aurora must have a room of her own, a place where her voice cannot be silenced." Her signature appeared at the bottom of the screen. Steady, confident, entirely lucid. The courtroom fell into a stunned hush. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Monroe was clearly of sound mind. Mom whispered, "She didn't mean—" "She meant every word," the judge cut her off. Minutes later, the ruling came down like a hammer. Aurora Hayes is to be restored full possession of Linden Loft within 24 hours. All trust-related assets are to be frozen immediately. Thomas and Miranda Hayes are required to repay all funds misappropriated from the trust, including accrued interest. Both are removed from any fiduciary involvement with Eleanor Monroe's estate. It felt unreal, like I was watching someone else's life unfold. But the moment we left the courthouse, the weight of it all hit me. Officers escorted me to my parents' house to regain access to my loft. The garage door creaked open, revealing boxes labeled in black marker. "Aurora's Things Donate? Trash?" My chest tightened. My mother stood on the driveway, wringing her hands. "Aurora, honey, listen, this is all a misunderstanding. We're still a family." I looked her straight in the eyes. "Real families," I said quietly, "don't throw their children out and steal their future." She flinched as if I'd slapped her. I walked past her, took back the keys that had been stolen from me, and stepped into the loft. The air smelled like dust and old memories. But for the first time, it felt like mine. Completely, irrevocably mine. And what they had tried so hard to take from me, my home, my voice, my worth, was finally returning, piece by piece. The weeks that followed felt unreal, like I was watching my old life collapse from a distance. And for once, I wasn't the one buried under the rubble. Under the pressure of the court's ruling, my parents and Graham scrambled to gather the money they owed. They sold off investments they once bragged about at every holiday dinner. They liquidated equipment from Linden and Bloom. Even their weekend lake house, my childhood dream getaway, went up for sale. Piece by piece. The empire they built on control and image began to crack. Meanwhile, clients quietly pulled out of contracts. Vendors whispered. Word spread. Linden and Bloom Events, my mother's pride, her identity, was suddenly one scandal away from bankruptcy. But for the first time in my life, their downfall wasn't my problem. What was mine, officially and irreversibly, was Linden Loft. When the final papers were signed and the last transfer hit the trust account, Cole handed me the deed with a quiet, "It's yours now, Aurora. No one can touch it." I held that document like it was grandmother's hand, warm and steady, guiding me forward. The day I moved back in, the loft was dustier than I remembered. Abandoned boxes, cold air, the faint smell of cedar from the beams Grandma had restored herself. I opened every window and let the Oregon breeze sweep through. Light pooled over the wooden floors like it was reclaiming the space with me. As I cleaned, I pulled the bookshelf away from the wall to dust behind it, something I hadn't done in years. A small envelope slipped out and landed at my feet. My heart stuttered. Her handwriting again. For Aurora, when she is ready. Inside was a single page, soft with age, but unmistakably hers. Sweet girl, if you are reading this, it means you found your way home. Not the house, not the land, yourself. The loft is yours, but don't keep it only for you. Open its doors to others whose dreams are being dismissed, ignored, or crushed. Let this place be a refuge the way it once was for you. And remember, light belongs to those who protect it. Grandma Eleanor. I sat on the floor and cried in a way I hadn't allowed myself to cry for years. Not out of pain this time, but something deeper. A release. A recognition that she had seen the whole story long before I did. And suddenly, I knew exactly what to do. Over the next months, Linden Loft became more than a writing space. It became a small creative sanctuary. A quiet room with mismatched chairs and free coffee where young writers, kids told they were unrealistic, ungrateful, or impractical, came to work on their stories. Some of them whispered things I once whispered to myself. My parents think this isn't a real career. No one believes I can do this. They want me to do something safer. I used part of the trust income to create a small scholarship. Nothing huge, but enough to buy someone time and space to breathe, to write, to dream without apology. And in helping them, I realized something I never expected. The sweetest revenge wasn't watching my parents' world crumble. It was watching mine begin. One evening, after everyone left, I sat at my grandmother's old desk. The sunset poured into the loft in soft streaks of gold, warming my hands as they hovered over the keyboard. I pulled up a blank document. My story. All of it. The betrayal. The eviction. The trust. The courtroom. The truth she left behind. As the first words formed, I glanced at the framed photo of Grandma Eleanor on the wall. Lavender bloomed on the sill beside it, new sprouts from the plant she once tended with so much care. "Don't let anyone dim your light," I whispered with her. And for the first time, the words felt like mine too. If you listened to this story from beginning to end, I'd love to hear what you felt. Did Aurora's journey touch you the way it touched me when writing it? Tell me in the comments if you liked it, and what kind of story you want me to create next. And if you want to hear more stories from other women finding their voices again, remember to like this video and subscribe so you never miss one of their stories.